Now I will go to the last but not least speaker, our third panelist, which is Mr. Amira, that will be intervening on Israeli non-compliance with international law and Israeli civil society action. Mr. Amiraf is a political science professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem and an expert on Jerusalem conflict.
Instead of information, a lot of information, I'll just tell you some stories, personal stories about Jerusalem, and you will understand what's happening and what can be reached in peace in the city that is called in the Bible the city of peace. I myself, when I came here, actually I was a little bit shocked when I've heard that there are riots against me and some people asked the king to put me on trial because of war, as a war criminal, because in 1967 as a paratrooper I conquered Jerusalem in the war. And this is a fact, I can't ignore it. I conquered Jerusalem according to these critics. I liberated Jerusalem according to the Israeli version. But both ways, I was wounded there, and since then, I'm very much involved in the question of Jerusalem, especially trying to find peace to this city that knew more conquerors than any other city in this world. 37 conquerors. I was the last one. So we ask ourselves, and this is what I asked myself after this war in 1967 as a young wounded paratrooper, how do we bring peace to this city? So beside my academic work in the university, the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, in which I teach, I tried all these years, 50 years, to negotiate together with my colleagues, Palestinians. Here is a colleague of mine. For 50 years we are trying to bring peace to the city. Me and him, he is a Palestinian. And especially with a very good friend of the two of us, Faisal Husseini. I was sitting with Faisal Husseini, and actually we found a formula for peace in Jerusalem. It's not a secret, I'll tell you the formula. It's the only formula. How do I know that this is the only formula? Because I was very close to Prime Minister Barak in Camp David, and very close to Prime Minister Omer in Annapolis a few years later. And these two prime ministers of mine failed to bring peace for me and for my children. So what is this story of me and Faisal Husseini, the late Faisal Husseini? What is it that we came to? And to an understanding between him, a Palestinian, and me, an Israeli. And I was an Israeli in the Likud, right wing in Israel. And he was a PLO. And we came to the conclusion that we can find a solution, and we found it. I went to the Prime Minister, Shamir, at that time, and I said, look, we have a solution to Jerusalem with Faisal Husseini, and Arafat blessed it. And Shamir, the Prime Minister, said, I'm ready that there will be elections in Jerusalem, in the West Bank. They will have autonomy, but not with Arafat, not the PLO. And I said, but Mr. Prime Minister, without the PLO, we can't go further. No. He was advocating, peace and arrangements with Hussein, King Hussein, not with the Palestinians. And I said, only with the Palestinians. The end of this negotiation between me and Faisal ended when actually Prime Minister Shamir said to me, stop all the negotiation with Arafat and with the Palestinians. We're not going for anything, and we continue our rule here in Jerusalem. And I warned him, I said, it will not be this quiet. I'm talking about the 2 months before the first Intifada. If somebody can remember, it was a time of peace. Everybody was happy. It looks like the Palestinians are happy. And he put Faisal in prison, and 2 months later started the Intifada that changed the Middle East. We could have peace then on the formula, this Husseini Amirab formula. What is this formula? 2 capitals in 1 city. This is a new idea. Go to Rome and you will see 2 capitals in 1 city. City of peace. Jerusalem is called in the Bible the city of peace. Husseini said, yes, I accept it. We shook hands. Actually, I hugged him. I thought maybe my party, the Likud, will accept it. They didn't. So I left the Likud. And then later on, I was working with Prime Minister Ehud Barak on another experiment to bring peace to my city. And I told my Prime Minister through this negotiation that were in Camp David, I said, Jerusalem is the main issue. If we don't find the solution together with Arafat, together with the Palestinians to Jerusalem, there is no agreement. And the Prime Minister said to me, yes, Professor Amirav, but in order to find a solution to Jerusalem, the Palestinians have to accept 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, bullshit. They will not accept it. We have to go on an even and a just solution. And he said to me, what is the solution? And I said, the solution was written here. Here's the paper. Faisal Husseini and Moshe Amirav signed it. It's an open city. It can be 2 capitals. It could be the city of peace, first time in the history of Jerusalem. It is the stupidity of Palestinians who didn't take the chances. I'm saying it with pain. I'm saying it because this is the truth. I'm not a politician. I don't run to be on any post in Israel. And they know it, the Israelis. I'm saying it because it hurts me that this city that is called the city of peace, that was conquered so many times, that so much blood was there through history because of stupidity and narrow-minded people. Yes, they were big people, prime ministers, but they couldn't reach the very simple thing, that this is not another city. This is the city, and we can't divide this city. I'm saying all this with a lot of respect to the conference here, to all the people who organized it, because I'm a refugee. I mean, I'm a son of a refugee. I'm not a refugee anymore. I was for 2 years a refugee with UNRWA, and thanks to UNRWA, I'm here. I'm a professor. I'm a free man in my country. And thanks to UNRWA, maybe, we will see all of us peace in Jerusalem. I'm saying all this because I decided to speak from my heart and not from my brain. I can give you a very, very academic lecture about Jerusalem, about what's happening in the last 50 years, 2,000 years. Those who sit with me here on the table. He's a good friend of mine. He wrote a few words about my last book, The Jerusalem Syndrome. And I thank him for that. What is my book about? It's about the syndrome, Jerusalem. It's about the craziness of the Jerusalem syndrome. Those who don't know what this syndrome is, it's the syndrome in which you see in the streets of Jerusalem people a little bit crazy, walking, speaking with Jesus Christ. Or they're speaking with God. They stand in the middle of the street and they speak to God. And I'm sure God is listening because this is Jerusalem. We have about 200 cases like this in the hospital every year in Jerusalem. It's called the Jerusalem syndrome. Clinton, when he spoke to me about Jerusalem, it was not like he was speaking about the West Bank and about security, you know, all the other issues we had in Camp David. He spoke about Jerusalem like a crazy man. He had in his eyes this thing, Jerusalem, Jerusalem is so important. And I said, yes, Mr. President, but practically we have to find an idea that will not divide the city. And everybody here in this conference is speaking about dividing my city. I'm against it. And then I saw it in the eyes of Arafat. I had many talks with Arafat. Not like many Israelis. I appreciate what he did. I think he was a great leader of the Palestinian nation. But when it came to Jerusalem, I spoke with him once in Tunis. He had this Jerusalem syndrome. And I said to him once, you know, I am very much interested in history. And he said, yes, I have a hero. And this hero is the one who conquered Jerusalem many, many years ago. And he saw himself as the liberator, as the one who will liberate Jerusalem. Later on, I told my prime minister, you see, for Arafat, the main important thing is Jerusalem. If we can pass this stone, this block, other things will be easier, much easier. So to conclude the issue of Jerusalem, I'm saying what I said then with Faisal Husseini. We can live in this city of peace. We don't have to put a wall in it. We can have peace and have two capitals. The capital of Palestine, and I'm sure Palestine will be a free country, a free state. Definitely, in a few years. And we will have two flags there. And then we have this small area. And by the way, when we speak about measurements, you know, I talk with Israelis. They even don't know what is the size of the old city. Some say 20 square kilometers, some say 10 square kilometers. I don't know if you know. 1 kilometer. Bas, 1 kilometer. And when we speak about the other thing, which is much more important, Temple Mount. What is Temple Mount? It's nothing. So why should we fight? Why should we sacrifice so many lives for this place? We can bring peace. When I say we, I mean Israelis and Palestinians. And I believe we can do it. And the formula that Faisal and me, late Faisal, came to, I'm saying it again and again to all my prime ministers. And you Palestinians, you should say to your leaders, it's 2 cities open, 2 flags, and the holy places will be under international or whatever. I'm not getting into the details. And we don't need flags there. The last time there was an Israeli flag on Temple Mount was in June 8. I saw it as a soldier. I saw the paratroopers putting the Israeli flag, and then Moshe Dayan, came and say, take the flag. We don't need flags in Temple Mount. So we don't need flags. There is no flag anymore. We don't need a flag. We need peace in the city of peace. Thank you very much.